I'm starting the recording. But thank you, Meredith. And Ken, I will turn it over to you for your introduction.
Hi, my name's Ken Ingram. Remember me as the white-haired guy on this. I'm tired of looking at myself on Zoom. But I teach and advise in landscape management and ornamental horticulture. So kind of urban agriculture, if you will. A lot of the principles and practices are the same. Most of my students end up working in landscape firms, tree arboriculture firms, but there's so many jobs, so many opportunities with our certificate. My favorite class, gosh, like Meredith, I enjoy them all. But our introduction to plant science in Ag 100, it's just a great freshman class that if you go on in school, you can take many more plant science classes. Plants are fascinating. Boy, animals, I have trouble with the big brown eyes, and I never enjoyed dissecting problems in high school biology. I don't know if you guys do any of that, but I'm a plant lover. I think plants can feel pain though. But that's my favorite class, and I hope I get to see you all in there next fall.
Thank you.
Going like Meredith, or can I end right there?
You're good there.
Great examples of what we do. No recipes, nothing. Anyway.
Awesome. Shayla, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi there, my name is Shayla Larson. I have been at the IAA while I'm coming up on my 1 year here. I moved all the way from South Dakota, so I bring kind of an interesting Midwestern perspective. I am the advisor and lecturer for the Agricultural Leadership and Communication track. So I also teach oral communication, so I kind of split my responsibilities between oral communication as well as ag leadership and communication. The Ag Leadership and Communication track, what's really I love the most about that track is there's so much flexibility within it and the type of careers that you can have. That's the major I had when I was in college. I got a bachelor's degree in it. But one of the things about ag leadership and communication, you can take so many avenues with it, whether it's public relations, it's policy, communication and journalism, advocacy, extension, or education. It's just one of those things that you can really take an opportunity to reflect on yourself and what your interests are, and can really be a go-getter and just go for it. And that's one of my favorite things about that track. So with that being said, I'm still, new to the IAA, and I'm still, taking on courses and learning about things. So the one class I have taught so far at the IAA is Ag Public Relations. And I've really, really enjoyed teaching that class. We're wrapping up this semester. And one thing that my students in that class have learned how to do is advocate for the agricultural industry. We've kind of examined how, ag public relations has changed, how it used to be about just educating farmers to now, we're learning how, public relations is now about educating consumers instead of just farmers, because there's a lot of controversy about how our food should be, produced and should be on the shelves. So they're learning how to write press releases. They're learning how to write feature stories. They're putting together a video and things right now, business flyers, all of these things while they're working hand in hand with an agricultural business or nonprofit. So lots of really hands-on experience where they come out with a portfolio at the end full of public relations work that they have in their back pocket for any future job interview they have, or just any career in general that you're going to have to do communications work. So really good class and good track.
Thank you, Shayla. Heather?
Hi, everyone. My name's Heather McHale. I am our advisor for our Ag Forward program, and I teach our writing class, which is an academic writing English 101 section, as well as some oral communication classes. So if I'm choosing which one of those I would want to take if I were the student, I would pick the writing class because even though I am a writing teacher, I have never taken an academic writing class. I stopped and thought about it, and the only actual writing class I ever took was about writing memoir. So it would be a great, fun thing for me. But I really enjoy teaching that class, and I think it's very valuable for any student, regardless of the level of writing skills that you have coming in. So I love that class. And as an advisor, I advise Ag Forward students, which means that they might come from any track. So I don't advise one particular specific track. So I also I find it really interesting to look at the way that the 4-year curricula from all the different majors in the department, or rather in the college work is really interesting. I like to look at those different kinds of paths for different students and for students in the certificate program or in the Ag Forward program. So you can always feel free to come and ask me if you have a question.
Thanks, Heather. Now I will pass it over to Tope, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello, good morning. My name is Tope Fajimbesi. I am the lecturer and advisor for our Ag Business Management program. The first thing you will learn about me is that I'm Nigerian, and you always want to see the Nigerian side of me. I teach Ag entrepreneurship, I teach Ag business management, I teach Ag finance and Ag math. Hands down, the one I would pick if I was supposed to pick one is Ag entrepreneurship, because it's a combination of all of those classes and more. It's the class that I feel is very practical, is very useful. It develops your skills, whether or not you're starting your own business or you're working for somebody. It teaches you a lot, and I learn a lot every single class in Ag entrepreneurship. I'm looking forward to welcoming you all. I really thank you for choosing the IAA. I think it's a fantastic program.
Great, thank you. And then our last advisor on here today is Geoff. You want to introduce yourself?
Yep, I'm Geoff Reinhardt. I am the advisor and lecturer in the golf course, sports turf, and turf grass management parts of our program. I teach several different classes ranging from our turf grass classes, both intro to advanced, as well as insects of turf and ornamentals, diseases of turf and ornamentals, irrigation and drainage, and also a turf bowl preparation class. So I guess my favorite, and this will be this upcoming 2020-2021 academic year will be my 4th year teaching here at the IAA. Previous to this, I've had experience in turf grass research, experience in the landscape industry, experience working on different golf courses across 3 different states. So I try to bring all of that experience across the industry and across different geographies into the classroom. I think my favorite class to teach would be our advanced agronomic practices for golf course management. This gives us provides an ability to really try to integrate everything that students have learned between insect management, disease management, turf grass management, and kind of move that into talking about more advanced concepts. It's nice because we can do that, but we also do a lot of field trips. That's a spring class, so we also do a lot of spring trips, field trips as we get into warmer weather during the spring. So it's a good mix of lecture and field trips for that particular class. Welcome to the IA.
Great. So Geoff, I'm going to start with one question for you. And again, we're kind of just going to be jumping into now some of the pre-submitted questions. But if you have questions, feel free to either like raise your hand on the little reaction button, or just send it in the chat. to either me or to everyone, and we will certainly either try to get to it, or if we don't have a chance to get to it, someone will email you. And so the first question that I want to start with is, what value does the IAA have for students professionally and academically? And Geoff, I think that you're a really great person, and Ken too, because you guys are out there in the green industry fields, and I know that you guys have, get praise about our program in terms of, just a really good reputation professionally.
Yeah, we've been real fortunate over the years. We've got a great reputation for achieving well in intercollegiate competitions within turfgrass management. So I think this last year was the fourth or fifth year in a row we've been top 5 at both of the intercollegiate competitions, both at the Sports Turf Managers Association and at the Golf Industry Show. So I think it speaks a lot to number one, to our students and their diligence with academics, but also that mix of academics and work experience that some of them have had over the years, but that others are able to gain through a pretty intensive internship program. So I think number one, that speaks to the caliber of our students. Number two, you look at the turfgrass and landscape industries, and there's just so many jobs available. I see announcements all the time looking for assistant golf course superintendents. I'm sure Kenny sees job announcements looking for, middle level management at landscape companies. So there's just a lot of jobs available within these two facets of landscape horticulture, golf course management, sports turf management. So the nice thing about the IA is that we have this great combination of in-class, kind of core academics, but then also we expand on that with our laboratory activities. And we're just so hands-on and experiential with our laboratory activities, with our field trip activities. And I spoke about the field trips that I have in my advanced class for insects and diseases. Half of the classes are actually labs. So you're getting out there, you're collecting insects, you're collecting diseases you see in the landscape. You're looking at the specimens in the lab and being able to look at them under microscopes. But the other nice thing too is that we have such a camaraderie among the students here that I try to organize a lot of extracurricular field trips as well. So we've gone down to Nats Park, we've gone over to FedEx Field, we've gone to Raven Stadium. So we'll go and see different facilities, different special projects that are going on in the industry. And, I think that combination of in-class academics combined with laboratory experience, combined with field trip experiences, and then just the ability to interact with students from other universities intercollegiately, it just kind of makes for a really well-rounded experience. And I know that the other programs have those opportunities too, where you're going out, you're going to conferences, meeting other students, meeting professionals. So I just think it's a great combination. And, across agriculture, there's a lot of tremendous opportunities for young professionals entering the field.
Perfect. Did any of the other advisors have anything to add to that? Okay. Yes, Will. One. I'm trying to unmute you. There you go.
All right. This is question for Mr. Geoff. So I went to the IA thing, and I'm interested in the golf course management and the sports turf. And I was wondering if it's possible if you can get 2 certificates by taking an elective or additional courses, if that's possible. I don't know if it is, but.
So yes, in general, you can achieve 2 certificates within the IAA. When we've had students do that in the past, they've been on, I want to say, pretty different tracks, maybe like ag business management, and sustainable ag, I think has been one of the ones that we've seen. I don't know that I've really had anybody look and say, okay, I want to do golf course and sports turf. And really those two happen to be very, very similar. I think just off by a class or two. So I haven't crossed that bridge in my program, but in theory, yes, it's possible to get two separate certificates, no matter which tracks within the IAA. So the thing that I would say is that if you're interested in sports turf, but you want to take some of the golf course classes too, I think that's great, and we can work with your curriculum, your personal curriculum, to be able to do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And then and sorry, Becky, I'll just say one more thing is, there are students who come in and they're not sure, do I want to do sports turf? Do I want to do golf? And, as they move along, that they kind of figure it out from there. So, yeah, it's definitely doable.
Awesome. Thank you, Geoff, and thank you, Will, for the question. So we've kind of been talking about some students who choose to do 2 years in our program and then graduate and go straight into the job force. That is a popular option for many of our students. But I know that there's several of you guys on this call who you guys want to pursue a bachelor's degree. And the IAA is a really great place for you to start and then to continue on to get your bachelor's degree. So if that's you, we have a couple questions that are a little bit more geared towards that. And the first one I'm going to ask Meredith to answer. And it's, how many students continue to study at UMD after the IAA or while at the IAA? And what is the percentage of students that get accepted to UMD after the IAA? And so that's a two-part question, but I'm going to turn it over to her to answer. And then if there's any other questions that come up as a result of answering this, please feel free to let us know.
Yes. So two-part question. The first part, how many students are going on to study for a bachelor's degree after they complete their certificate? We're seeing that roughly half of our students these days are continuing on for a bachelor's degree. And that is a combination of students who are in the Ag Forward program, where they work simultaneously on the certificate and the degree, and students who are certificate first, where they do their 2 years or 60 credits to earn their certificate with the IAA, and then they transition to be working exclusively on their bachelor's degree, which most students can do in another 2 years. So you are out in 4 with both a certificate and a degree, dually credentialed. But that does all depend on, if you brought in transfer credits or AP credits, what your combination is between your certificate and your bachelor's degree. There is a lot of variability. Some people can do it faster than 4 years. Some people it'll take 4.5 or 5 years. It really depends. And we will work with you one-on-one to figure out what the best path forward is to do it most efficiently. And then the second question, how many people get admitted for the bachelor's degree? I will say I don't have a percentage, but we've had dozens and dozens of students apply and be admitted. We've only had 2 in the history of doing this who applied and did not get admitted. And I will tell you, they did not have a good GPA. So we will be working closely with you, advising you every semester, making sure that you're prepared and in the best possible situation to make that transition. Are there any other questions about that? And Heather, feel free to jump in. Yeah, Nicholas, there you go.
Yeah, so my question is, what are the GPA requirements that you need to hold in the IAA in order to be accepted in the University of Maryland?
Great question. So I'll answer this, and if anyone else wants to chime in, please do. So it depends how many credits you have accumulated before you try to transfer. If you are, for instance, in the Ag Forward program and you are working simultaneously on the certificate and the degree, you transfer after your first year and you need a 3.0 GPA. There are some other requirements that you need as well, math, English, 30 credits, but you're aiming for that 3.0 GPA. If you complete the full certificate first, and then you transfer to work exclusively on your bachelor's degree, the third and fourth year that you're at UMD, then if you have 60 credits, the GPA that you're targeting to transfer is a 2.0. But the higher, the better, always.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, William. Gotta unmute yourself.
Okay, all right, hello. So, this is kind of a question, like, for, like, a certain, like, path. Like, I was wondering if, like, this, like, I didn't know, because I'm kind of, like, you guys explained it good, but I'm still, like, kind of a little confused on, like the certificate. So here's my question. So, if I'm gonna do the certificate first, and let's say I'm gonna do golf course management, and for my bachelor's, what I have to do something in the College of Agriculture and Natural Resource, right? Like, could I get my certificate in, like, let's just say golf course management and then do my bachelor's in landscape architecture? Like, would that be like an ideal, or is that not how it works?
Geoff, did you want to answer?
Sure. So the curriculum for landscape architecture is going to be, I would say 75 to 80% different than turf grass management. So while you probably would have some of the core courses, and Heather, you can chime in on this, as you're probably a little bit more familiar with that LAR degree than I am. But I would say that your core plant courses, your English, your math will all be the same. But I know for LAR, they start getting into a lot of design aspects that we don't necessarily get into within the turf grass management curriculum. That said, there is a student right now in the 4-year program that is double majoring in turf grass management and landscape architecture.
Okay.
I would imagine it's going to take him 5 years to do that double major. So, it can be done, but I don't think there's a ton of overlap. Maybe semester or 2 semesters of overlap, but
All right.
Yeah, and I might add that part of the reason that the landscape architecture program is challenging for that is that they have a very specific sequence of courses, and the schedules are a little bit unusual because they have a lot of classes that might meet, for a 3-hour block once a week as a design or whatever. So if you're interested in landscape architecture, one thing that we would recommend that you do is call over there and talk to one of the advisors in the program. In a more general sense, there are lots of different majors, both within the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, and to a lesser degree elsewhere at the university, that fit in pretty well. So in some cases, what you might want to do is look at what career outcome you want and talk to your advisor about what the options are for the programs that might work well for you.
Okay.
So, there may be a lot more options than you think.
Yeah. Okay.
so you can, I think to talk to an advisor over there, perhaps Becky, you could maybe set up a introduction. If you're able to email Becky, and then she can kind of introduce you to one of the advisors there so that you could connect with them.
Okay. Sweet. Thank you.
Great. And then one of the other questions that we received, and Heather, you just touched on it a tiny bit, but So after the IAA, are students, is it recommended that students exclusively transfer to AGNR, or, you know, what if they wanted to transfer to the School of Public Health, or maybe to transfer to business? What's your recommendation on transferring after the IAA?
That's a great question, Becky, because we have students who are interested in a really wide range of things. The short answer is most of the majors in the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources will have more overlap with the classes that you take toward your certificate. So they might be more efficient. You know, you might be able to complete them more quickly. But that doesn't mean that any of the majors on campus are not available to you. As a transfer student who has completed a certificate, you apply to the university and you can designate any major you want. Obviously, there are a few that are limited enrollment programs. You'd have to apply to the program as well, right? But for the most part, you know, anywhere you want to go, you can major in whatever you choose. You just have to be aware that if it is a program that doesn't have a lot of overlap with your certificate, you'll have a lot more requirements still left to complete. And even within the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, there's a wide variation on that, right? So there are some programs where almost, you know, 2/3 or 3/4 of the classes you took in your certificate program fulfill requirements of some kind, right? And then there are some programs where, you know, it's a much lower proportion. Your credits all count. You know, your 60 credits are all going to count. The only class that the IAA even has now that is not, that doesn't count toward resident credit, where you keep your GPA and whatever, is our agricultural math course. And if you're interested in pursuing a bachelor's degree, we would recommend that you take a university math course anyway. All 60 of your credits continue to count, but they might not all fulfill requirements. And more of them are likely to not fulfill requirements if you choose a major that's outside of the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources.
Perfect, thank you. So just looking at the time, it's about 10:40, and a couple of our advisors and lecturers will need to go to class at 11. So I believe that's Geoff, Shayla, and Meredith, who will need to leave at 11. Do any of you guys have, oh, sorry, just Shayla and Geoff.
I leave at 11 on Tuesdays. I'm good on Monday.
Oh, got it. Okay. So just Geoff and Shayla, do any of you guys have questions for either of them about either ag leadership and communication or the golf turf and sports turf before they head off?
Can I say something? I realized I forgot to say something in my spiel.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't know, I must have not have enough coffee. But one thing I also like to say is a lot of you, it sounds like a lot of folks here are like thinking about transferring on to a bachelor's degree. And the ag leadership and communication piece, one thing that there's a lot of interest in is that it's a great addition to any major that you have. If you think about one aspect that a lot of adults are missing right now, and that's learning how to communicate effectively. You know, right, is like there's etiquette and, you know, how to communicate effectively. The agricultural, you know, industry needs effective communicators and leaders now more than ever. So even if you didn't want to stop just at, you know, the certificate and you wanted to continue on to a bachelor's degree, it would be such a great pairing with whatever bachelor's degree you chose. So that's one thing that I wanted to say. And I also realized that I completely blanked on, you know, thanking you for being here today. Clearly I haven't had enough coffee today. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. If you have any questions for me, please let me know or reach out to Becky for my contact information. I would love to have a conversation with you about joining our program or joining the ag leadership and communication track in general.
Thanks, Shayla. Did anyone have questions for Geoff?
Yeah, I have one. What are some of the places people get internships with, like a sports turf or turf grass certificate?
So with the certificate, obviously you're moving up, you're going on to work professionally. So sports turf wise, folks are typically would find a job as an assistant groundskeeper at a professional stadium or probably at a Division I college complex from a sports turf standpoint, or maybe, minor league ballpark, depending on. The thing about sports turf is that there's so many, some folks are more interested in football, some folks are interested in baseball. If you go to a college or university, you kind of get, a variety of different fields to maintain. So that's typically the kind of the entry level position right now for graduates. For golf courses, you'll be able to find an assistant superintendent position. That's somewhere between a public course to, probably lower to middle end country club. The upper end clubs, if you're looking at top 200 clubs, those are usually positions you kind of work into with experience. Internship wise, I've been real proud of our interns. We've sent, just in the last few years, we've sent students to some really great places. We've sent them to Atlanta Athletic Club, which has hosted major or very significant tournaments. We've sent students. We've got one student this year. He was there last year, to Oakmont Country Club in Pittsburgh. Of course, hosted the most U.S. Opens of any golf course in the country. I have another student headed up to Oakland Hills in Michigan at the end of May, and that's a top 25 course. I had a student a few years ago go to the club at Cordillera, which is a wonderful course out in Colorado. So yeah, we've been able to place students in a lot of great places for internships. And one of the things I think about for internships is that if you've grown up here in Maryland, sometimes it's good to get out and go to another region of the country and kind of see what their philosophy is, see how they manage things in another part of the country, and it really broadens your horizons once you return back here to Maryland. So I think there's a lot of great opportunities, and definitely internship wise, there's a ton of internships, and there's a good amount of jobs too. So
Thank you.
Someone should brag about our 2 alums who ended up on the Superbowl Crew this year. I think, Geoff, they were before.
They were before Bobby Blake was barely at the beginning of my time.
Yeah. Ken knew both of them, Bobby and Jared.
Yeah, Jarrett interned with the Baltimore Ravens. They have this amazing practice facility up in Owings Mills, Maryland. And Bobby Blake was great. Jeff and I visited him at Ridgewood Country Club up in New Jersey, another top 100 club, hosts many major events. Boy, don't tell Bobby. Bobby actually married a member's daughter, so a girl he met. Well, that was part of what was going on there. So, golly, internship-wise, Jeff, you can go anywhere. I'm even hearing signing bonuses, if you will, like clubs.
For interns, yeah.
Yeah, willing to come to work for them. Woodmont Country Club locally here in Rockville, and Congressional Country Club had. Now, I don't know what this coded thing's done to that, but boy, they just embrace our interns. They beg you to come to work for them. They have geared their program towards these young college folks, and they can't get enough. Even some help with scholarship and educational assistance. So it's just a great opportunity.
Yeah, and a lot of our interns, you have housing too. So, your housing's paid for. Some of them have lunch and dinner. So you're putting a lot of money in the bank, over the summer, which helps.
Awesome. All right. So
I'm going to sign off.
All right. Thanks, Geoff.
Thanks.
So now I kind of want to transition, because there are most of you guys on here have already accepted and are planning to join us in the fall, which is really exciting. We're so excited to have you guys join us. And I know that there, amidst everything going on, there's tons of questions about is housing still due? Are we still having orientation? So I'm going to take this time to kind of answer more of those questions. there's still prospective students on the call. Please feel free to stay on the call. All this information will be very relevant to you as well if you choose to confirm your admission. But again, if any of you guys have questions, just let me know. So to start off, the most pressing thing that's kind of on the radar right now is by May 1st, if you are planning to live on campus, if you would like to live on campus, you have to submit your housing agreement by May 1st. So before you can submit your housing agreement, you have to set up a computer account. If any of you guys on the call have no idea what I'm talking about and you want to live on campus, please email me as soon as possible so we can get that straightened out. You have to go onto the ResLife site and log in with your credentials, and that's how you sign the housing agreement. More information will come from ResLife on choosing your roommate and all of that stuff, but the most important thing to guarantee housing is to submit the housing agreement. And again, that is due May 1. They have not changed that deadline. So make sure that you meet that deadline, or if you have any questions to let me know. And the second question that I've gotten is there still going to be new student orientation in June? Right now, we have Ag Forward orientation scheduled for Wednesday, June 10th. Please keep that on your calendar. As of right now, we're still planning on having it. As things develop, of course, we will keep you guys in the loop. But it's our hope that we will be able to welcome you guys. We miss our students, and we miss the campus. So if you're an Ag Forward student, it's June 10th. It's a Wednesday. If you're a certificate first student, it's Thursday, June 11th. So make sure you keep those dates open. And again, if there's any other further development, of course, we will keep you guys updated. Another question that we've been getting is, when are we going to register for classes? And how do we know what to take? So to that, I'm going to turn it over to Heather if you want to chime in on that.
Sure. So the short answer to, how do you know what to take is that's one of the things that we cover at orientation. So hopefully we will be able to hold that event and meet you in person. You will, one way or another, definitely meet with an advisor. So hopefully it'll be face-to-face and in person, but we'll let you know about that. Your advisor will help you figure out what you want to take in your first semester. And for your first semester, once you have orientation, you will register usually right there, right? Most semesters, you'll meet with your advisor and register before all of the other students on campus get to register, which is one of the awesome things about being an IAA student, is that you get early registration. So you are required to meet with your advisor every semester, which is actually great for you because it gives you the opportunity to sort of check in, ask questions, and talk about your course options and what you really want to take. So basically for that process, we walk you through it. We help you figure all of those things out. One question that people often have about that is about math. And so if you're also thinking, maybe you're looking toward a bachelor's degree, whether you're Ag Forward or a certificate student, and one thing that you will want to do is take the math placement test. So if you're an Ag Forward student, you really need to do that before your orientation. You can shoot me an email and I can send you the link to it, or you can just go to the university's website and search math placement test. What you have to have your credentials set up, just like Becky was talking about with your email. Once you have that, you can go take that anytime. If you are a certificate student, but you're looking toward a bachelor's degree eventually, you should still take the math placement test. It's a little bit less time sensitive. If you want a little time to review or whatever, that's okay. You should still take that so that you can consult in your first semester with your advisor about which math class you want to take. that's really the one thing that your advisor needs you to do in order to be able to guide you toward the correct classes. Actually, I say the one thing. There is one other thing. Also, if you have any AP credits or transfer credits, you need to make sure your advisor knows about those. And once we have those pieces of information, we'll make sure that you know what you need to register for. Does that answer that question, Becky? And
yes, yeah, that's
anything I
perfect.
missed?
You answered the other question as well. So yeah, definitely for the math placement exam, I'm telling you from experience, one, I know you don't like math, but just take it now. It's fresh in your brain because you're probably in some kind of math class. So take it before orientation, even if you aren't 100% sure if you're going to get a bachelor's degree. Just go ahead and take it. There's no harm in taking it. And then the other thing is absolutely take the practice exam. The practice exam is very, very helpful, and that will really give you some insight on what the problems are going to look like. And, you know, it's not a pass-fail exam, so don't fear, you know, failing or anything like that. That's sometimes why people, you know, are holding off to take it, is they don't, you know, they're afraid they're going to fail. It by no means is it that. It's just a placement. So just to see what math class you should be in. So we just got one more question on the chat, but I'm going to ask this question first because some of you guys might be like, well, you know, I know that I like agriculture, and, you know, I know that, you know, this could be a really great place for me, but I'm not sure what I want to get my bachelor's degree in. And as an advisor, that's, you know, part of their job, and that's part of, you know, kind of how they're going to help you and guide you. And Heather alluded to this earlier, by maybe think about what you want to do as a career and then work your way back to a bachelor's degree. But I'm going to pass it to Meredith and see if maybe she has some help and, you know, advice on how the advisors can help you figure out and guide you on taking classes.
Sure. To speak to the question of how do we help you choose a bachelor's degree, it's going to be a mixture of practicality and what your hopes and dreams are. We want you to be able to go out and do whatever it is that you want to do to save the world. And we also want to help you get to that goal in a reasonable way, both in terms of time and in terms of cost, because education is not cheap. But the first question that I always ask my advisees who are undecided is, well, what are the problems in the world that you want to solve? And we start there. Or what are the things that you're really passionate about, and how do we find a way to make that into your career? And generally, the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources is a wonderful place to be for that, because it's not just tractors and cows. It's so much more, including all of the environmental sciences, economics, business, nutrition and food science. There's so much. If you're an artist, landscape architecture is for you. If you're a writer, you know, some of the more policy-oriented tracks may be for you. There are so many choices, it's overwhelming. And it's our job to help you choose some of your first and second year classes that are going to help you discover what it is you really like studying. Because it is one thing to have a passion for something, and it's another thing to enjoy it in the classroom. So we will help you through that. And Becky, can you jog my memory of what the second half of the question was?
Oh, I think that was it. Just,
okay.
You know, how can, you know, as a student who doesn't know what they want to do, you know, how can the advisor help, and, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And actually, I think I can tie this into the question from Jeffrey in the chat box, that as an IAA student, you are a UMD student fully. So you can really take any class at the entire university. There are thousands to choose from, but we are going to help you find the ones that are going to meet the requirements of your program. and the ones that will help you, like I said, explore your interests. Some of the courses that you have to take are really broad on purpose. They expose you to many different aspects of what you might be studying in agriculture and natural resources. And then as you go through your semesters, those courses that you're taking are generally going to get more and more specialized and specific toward what it is that you're majoring in. But you can take any class on campus. Go ahead, Heather.
Can I chip in just for a minute to say, one of the things that your advisor can really help you do is to choose a major with a little bit more of a detailed understanding of what the differences are, because some of the majors, just by the name of the degree, they sound really similar. So if you're interested in environmental science, right, there are 6 or 7 different degrees in the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources that are about environmental science. And you might not know how to tell what's the difference between this one versus that one versus this one, but your advisor can help you sort that out. So you'll know, as Meredith said, you know, if you're more interested in policy and writing and advocacy, right, we can, you know, sort of suggest things that help with that. If you're interested in really the hard science, that's a different path, right? So sometimes you might know what you want to do, but it's not always transparent when you just look at that list of degrees, which of those things would be a best fit for you. So that's where we can kind of help you sort it out.
Sorry. Yes, Nicholas.
So I had a question regarding agricultural business. What sort of jobs does the certificate usually bring, and how many credits transfer to the major, and is there any extra courses that you need to take in order to like have like a certain number?
I think I can answer that, and I would also think Heather can, you know, add to it as well. First of all, I was going to say something before you asked your question, that one of the reasons I like the IAA, this is my second year, I'm about to start my second year in the IAA. One of the reasons I like the IAA is the fact that you can get this sort of advice that you all are getting now here online with you and just a few other people. This is how it is in real life in the IAA. So you get one-on-one advice. You don't feel overwhelmed or feel lost in terms of choosing where your path is, or where you change your mind. You can always just walk into one of us office and have a conversation. And if we're still on Zoom, you can always hop on Zoom and, you know, ask a question. Now for the agricultural business management, like Heather said, the only class that really doesn't transfer to the 4-year college is the math. And if you plan to go on, and I always tell my advisors, even if you don't know if you're going to go on or not, go ahead and take the math placement test. And you will, you know, you can't lose. And there are always, depending on where you place into, there are always options of how we can work around this, which brings me to the kind of classes that you can do and how you can make sure that you don't spend 6 years or 5.5 years trying to get a 4-year degree. When you meet with your advisor, whether in June or every semester, like you will before you sign up for classes, you will sit with us and we'll say, okay, based on what you'd like to do, maybe you want to major in animal science afterwards, or if it's agricultural business management and you want to do AREC, agricultural resource and economics, we would look at electives or compulsory classes that would carry on to when you are, you know, in the 4-year college. So you would do classes that satisfy your requirements for the certificate. There will be electives, and then you would also do classes that by the time you get to the to your 3rd year and you're in the university itself, those classes would also matter. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So the agricultural business management degree from the Department of Agricultural and Resource Economics is maybe the single best fit for an IAA student. It's very, very easy to fit those two. So there's that, you know, as a consideration that you'll have plenty of space to take other kinds of classes, to have extra electives, all of those things with a degree from AREC. Tope, I wondered though, did you have maybe some more thoughts about what kinds of jobs tend to be available?
I was going to say that. That was going to be my first answer. Sorry, I haven't had my ice cream today. So, but you know, the one thing I like about the agricultural business management is that you can work everywhere. It is the concentration, and I would be proud to say this, where you can get it and you can work you can be featured in Super Bowl. You can work in a vet's office, you can work in a farm, you can work everywhere, because one of the reasons why, and when you get to school, you'll see this, half of the farmers in Maryland, in the state of Maryland, earn less than $10,000. So many agribusinesses don't have the business capacity to expand and to make income that will help them make a living from agriculture. And that's where you come in. So whatever sector you want to go to, as long as you come in and you have you're a good student, you really put in your best, you will be able to help almost any business, because every business that wants to grow needs a business manager. So there's no limitation.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes, Will.
So this is like pretty much the last two questions I have. These are just two like quick questions. So it said on the thing, it says before orientation, we have to, it says submit the like immunization form. Like, is there like even a point in doing that as of right now, since there's nobody at the college to receive that, or is that like an online thing that we can do?
That is a good point. I'll have to look into it and see, because I submitted my immunization forms forever ago.
Okay.
I don't know, because you could do it online completely electronically. But it depends on your doctor's office and I'd assume that they're swamped right now. So I would say for right this second, just put it on hold until I figure out. I can call today and see if I get an answer from them. I'd assume that they're still operating, but it may just be slower than normal. Yeah. So I will definitely get back to you, Will.
Okay, and then my other one is, so I know you guys were talking about the math placement test. So if I'm doing the certificate first, so I would still I have to do that, or like it's a good idea too?
I would say it's strongly encouraged.
Okay.
So I'll use myself as an example. So I was a student at the IAA, and when I first started, I grew up on a farm, and I thought, well, I'm gonna go get my education, and then I'm gonna go back to the family farm. And so I didn't take the math placement because we do offer an ag math class. Okay. And then shortly after taking the ag math class, I was like, oh, I love higher education, I'm gonna stay. And I had already taken math. So then I had to quickly scramble to try to remember things that I had learned 2 years ago, take the placement exam, and then take another math class before transferring, because one of the things that's required for transferring is having a fundamental math class, and that math does not count as a fundamental math class. So that's from personal experience, just take it. And then at least you have the option. If you're like, absolutely not, I'm not, I don't want to get a bachelor's degree, then you can just take ag math, and that would be a great option. But I'd say just go ahead and take it. No, there's no harm in taking the math placement.
And I can just like I can just like take it at home before orientation. Like, mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
Yep. Thanks. And the link on that same form that you were just looking at, the student success checklist, it should have the link to it. And they, it's a long page, but read it. And it's got all the links to the other, like to the practice test and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Are there any other questions before we sign off from anybody?
Yeah, I'm wondering if any of the folks that don't have their video on that we haven't heard from yet have any questions, or specifically if any of the prospective students have questions, or if we have any people who are career changers or kind of not coming in as a traditional college age student.
All right, well, if there aren't any other questions, then we will go ahead and wrap this up. Just because this is ending doesn't mean that the communication for all of us has to stop. So again, we are all actively on our emails and, you know, by our phones. So if you have questions, please reach out to us, and we will be happy to answer them. But other than that, I'm going to end this now. Thank you all for joining us today. It was so good to see some of your faces, and I'm excited to hopefully see all of you this fall. And this will, again, this is recording right now. So when I end this, I should be able to post it. So if you guys have friends that weren't able to join, let them know that we will be sending out the recording. So if that is it, bye everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye friends.